Tensions exploded on Capitol Hill as Senator Chris Coons unleashed a scathing rebuke against Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth in a dramatic Senate hearing. In a blistering critique, Coons accused the Pentagon of descending into chaos, slamming delayed budgets, the abandonment of U.S. allies, deep cuts to Ukraine aid, and the controversial diversion of defense funds to wage so-called culture wars. All this, he warned, as America's adversaries, China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea, grow stronger, bolder, and more unified. What happened inside that hearing room could reshape U.S. defense policy for years to come. Stay with us for the full story and the political shockwaves that are still rippling through Washington. 95% of our viewers are not subscribed. It's free, and it means a lot to us. Just hit the subscribe button and stay tuned. Thank you for your support.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Secretary, just a quick question to clarify something. Is a full year continuing resolution bad for the Department of Defense? Just yes or no?
Sir, a full year continuing resolution is never preferable for any department, especially the Department of Defense. Not preferable.
And I know, General Kane, I don't need to ask you because your written testimony specifically says routinely operating under continuing resolutions lowers buying power, results in less deployable capital, makes it harder for industry to make long-term investments. And is it your commitment, Mr. Secretary, that you'll work with us to achieve a full year appropriation? You'll submit the budget documents necessary, work with us closely, that we'll be able to do our work so you can do yours.
Senator, we are committed to working with you to make sure the Defense Department gets as robust a budget as possible where we can meet the threats of today and tomorrow.
Thank you. I'll just say at the outset for all my colleagues, I am increasingly concerned that there is a threat that some believe they can best govern by continuing resolution, reconciliation, and rescission, and not ever actually have us appropriate. So I look forward to working with you to avoid that outcome, which I think would both disregard the role of Congress and put all of us at greater risk. It seems to me clear with regards to Ukraine that Vladimir Putin has no serious intent of negotiating. He continues to attack civilian targets night after night with hundreds and hundreds of drones. The Ukrainians have just carried out a spectacular attack against military targets. And it seems to me concerning that the 2026 request eliminates aid to Ukraine entirely. At the same time, the Senate has a strongly bipartisan bill led by Senator Graham and Senator Blumenthal to impose more sanctions on Russia, and many senators of both parties want to provide more aid to Ukraine. Would you agree, Mr. Secretary, that the United States should use every tool it has at its disposal, including additional sanctions, to pressure Russia to come to the table to negotiate a just and lasting peace for the war in Ukraine?
Senator, every tool at our disposal? No. We have a lot of tools in a lot of places.
Let me be more narrow. Let me be more narrow then.
Apply.
You said, and I'll take some exception to this, that our European allies cannot freeload off the United States in perpetuity. My impression is that Article 5 of the NATO Treaty was only invoked once. It was after 9/11. And a significant number of our European allies and partners deployed to Afghanistan alongside us and suffered significant combat casualties. In the first 2 years of the war in Ukraine, a war of Russian aggression, 50 other countries stepped forward, deployed military support, delivered materiel, provided financial and operating support, and at regular meetings of the Defense Contact Group, your predecessor led that process of deploying military assistance. What message do you think it sends? That as Ukraine continues to suffer day after day of punishing attacks on civilian centers, we're not using the $3.8 billion in presidential drawdown authority that remains to send additional air defense and interceptors, and you yourself chose to not attend the Ukraine Defense Contact Group. Mr. Secretary, why not use the already appropriated presidential drawdown authority to deliver defense material badly needed by Ukraine?
Well, Senator, as you know, the presidential drawdown authorities 71 through 74 still apply, and they are still flowing. There's some in reserve. To your question about my statement And I served with a lot of NATO allies in Afghanistan as
Yes.
well. Incredibly capable Canadians, Brits, and Australians and others. And grateful for them. And I've gotten to know a lot of them in this process
Yes.
going to Brussels. Amazing people, amazing countries.
Thus, I was struck, Mr. Secretary.
But we also wore a patch on our shoulder
Yes.
that said ISAF, International Security Assistance Force. And you know what the joke was? That it stood for I Saw Americans Fighting. Because what ultimately was a lot of flags, was not a lot of on-the-ground capability. You're not a real coalition, you're not a real alliance, unless you have real defense capability and real armies that can bring those to bear. And that's a reality that Europe is waking up to quickly, and we're glad, because they're
Mr.
our
Secretary.
friends, and we want them to be safe and free and secure. And sometimes that takes true talk and tough love, and they've responded very well to that because we want them to succeed. And
Mr.
President Trump
Secretary,
wants them
let's
to.
just make clear for the record that our military partners in Afghanistan included many who served and died. Our Danish partners and allies on a per capita basis
Don't try to
suffered
make it
more.
look like I don't care about the investments of our partners. Of course I do.
Mr.
I recognize
Secretary,
that there were lives lost from other countries.
Of
but
course
the
there
bulk
were.
of the effort was Americans. And an alliance needs to include other countries and be more balanced
Mr.
to be a
Secretary,
real alliance. And
as I
that's the point
pointed
we're
out
making.
in my opening comments, our partners and allies have stepped up, have invested, have engaged in the defense of Ukraine, and so should we. We should not be pursuing
As the
a
fallout from
ceasefire
this
and a
explosive
negotiated
hearing
resolution
continues to
warn
unfold,
Ukraine at any
one
cost.
thing is clear.
Peace through strength
Questions
means
about
actually
leadership,
using our
priorities,
strength,
and America's global
continuing to
role
support
aren't
Ukraine,
going away
and securing
anytime
a lasting
soon.
peace. Putin
What's
will
your
only
take on
stop
Senator
when we
Coons'
stop
fiery
him. And the best way
accusations?
to stop him
Do you
is
believe
indeed
the Department
through
of
a stronger
Defense
NATO.
is
I
steering
look
in the
forward
right
to the NATO
direction?
summit. I agree
Join
with
the
you that a
conversation in the
significant
comments
investment by
below,
NATO in our
and don't
collective
forget to
security
like,
is a
share,
great
and
investment,
subscribe
but we
to stay
cannot
updated
abandon
on the
Ukraine.
stories
That
that
would put
shape
us
our world.
significantly
We'll be following this
disadvantaged.
developing story, so stay tuned.